This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, and especially big welcome to Sholem Elcombe School in good old Australia. A big welcome on your live safari, guys. Please send as many questions to your teacher as possible. I can't wait to hear from you. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend Sebastian on camera, and I am looking for lions and leopards this morning. But because we live, we never know what we're going to find. So who knows what might be around the next corner. And I said I was looking for lions, and I have now seen some lion tracks. And I know these lion tracks are quite fresh because I drove down this road last night. It's about 5 a.m. in the morning here. Let me see if I can show you a lion track there. A little bit tough because of the ground. So you can't really see it here. It looks like a male lion track. You see it, Sebastian? So if I show you carefully, this is the back pad, and then his toes are there. You can see how big it is. So it's a big lion. Let's walk through here. Not a big adult, probably a sub-adult, so 3 years old or so. But I think I'm going to let someone else follow up on those lion tracks because I'm going to keep heading for some leopards that I saw yesterday. Remy is asking which is the fastest animal. Well, the fastest land mammal is, of course, the cheetah. But the fastest animal in the world is a peregrine falcon when it hits terminal velocity, when it's diving after prey species, and they can go over 300 kilometers an hour. There we go. There's a lion track that we can see a bit better and softer sand. You can see it nicely there. So one of the ways we find a lot of the animals is to follow their footprints. Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving and looking for leopards. While we do that, let's go meet Trishala, who's going to show you what sunrise in Africa looks like.
Good morning, everybody. Look at this wonderful sunrise. Aren't those colors just magnificent? Welcome to our school drive. I'm so excited to have you on board. I love Australia. I grew up there, and I am so excited to have a school from there. In fact, I can't wait till my school gets on here. So please enjoy. I know that you don't often join us, but please, please, please enjoy this drive. Now, I'm Trishala, and I'm coming to you from Juma, the same place that Brent Leo Smith was coming to you from. And my plan for today is to go to the dam. So let's see what this beautiful sunrise looks like from the dam. Now, I want to go to the dam because it's been raining just a bit. It's been sparse lately, and now that the rains have come, I'm hoping there's at least a puddle down there at Buffelshoek Dam. So, let's have a go. Drive up there and see what we can find. Gammy has a wonderfully obscure question. How many leaves can a tree grow? Well, Gammy, that is absolutely subjective, and it is I'm completely unable to answer it. So, trees will grow a numerous amount of leaves. They'll replace leaves. They'll have different rates of growth for the leaves depending on their life stage. Maybe a young tree has fewer leaves, smaller leaves, and then an older tree will have big leaves that it keeps dropping and then replacing with newer leaves. So it may be hundreds of thousands of leaves. now. Remember to use our hashtag SafariLive for your questions and comments on Twitter and of course in the YouTube chat stream. We'd love to hear from you and I love your questions. Well, while I make my way to Buffelshoek Dam to find some water and some animals, let's go to Jamie who's looking for some other animals.
Good morning, good morning. I am indeed looking for some other animals, although I suppose for the kids joining us this morning, it's actually afternoon to all of you. Now, my name is Jamie, and this morning a gentleman known as Craig, or Batman, is on camera with me. Now, you've met Brent and you've met Trishala, and they're both looking for leopards and lions, and if I find a leopard or a lion, I'll be very excited because I love to see them, but I'm looking specifically for something else. I'm looking for the other top predator out here, which is the spotted hyena. Now, we've got a few tiny little baby spotted hyenas wandering around. They live in a den site in a termite mound, so basically in a series of burrows underneath the ground. Now, I've been past where they usually sleep, and there's nobody home. So I'm just doing a quick loop to see if I can figure out where the mothers have gone, and then perhaps we can catch up with them there. But much like Trishala, I'm also looking at the various water areas. Ah, lovely. Now, Jonah wants to know what sound a hyena makes. They make lots and lots of different sounds, but the sound that they're the most famous for is the ooh. Ooh sound. That's called whooping, and it's what they do when they're calling to each other, when they're talking to each other, as well as sort of letting the rival hyenas know that this is their territory. They also make all sorts of other sounds. So they giggle when they're nervous. It sounds just like a person giggling nervously. It's a sort of hee sound. They make low ooh sounds when they cross or when they're warning something, or even when they're calling their cubs. And then the cubs make a very specific sound when they're begging for milk, which is a whining sound. We call it squittering, which is a very funny word. So spotted hyenas actually can make a vast range of different sounds, and they are probably one of the most vocal animals, so they talk the most out of almost everything out here. Now, what I've been listening for this morning is the sound of whooping. Okay, let's have a look at the water's edge. I can see some geese. While we stop here and have a look at them, we can answer Sophia's question. Now, Sophia wants to know why it is that the geese are trying to talk to us now. Sophia wants to know why it is that hyenas giggle as much as they do. Oh, and they're gone. Spotted hyenas giggle not because they're laughing. It's not, even though they're known as laughing hyena, it's not actually laughter. It's a sound that they make when they're nervous or they're excited. So if they're trying to move up to lions, maybe steal their kill, or maybe the lions have stolen the hyena's kill from them, they'll make a sort of a whee sound. It's a very giggly, nervous sound, but it's not because they're laughing. It just sounds a lot like laughter. So we're going to check one more time. Let's see. We'll go back to the den. Hopefully we get lucky. I'm hoping we do, because there's nothing else at the water's edge. I don't see any footprints in the sand. Right, I'm not having much luck this morning, but Trishala has managed to find one of the prettiest antelope out here.
Yes, I have. I found one of the prettiest antelope out here. Now, why are they so pretty? Can you see how cute these little lambs are and how wonderfully smooth their coats are? Don't you think they're beautiful? Now, they have a very, very long and hard grooming procedure that they go through. They'll each go and take off any insects and ticks that they have off each other to make sure that their coat and fur, jumping around, is nice and smooth. Very, very pretty antelope. Now look at these little babies. They remind me much of you guys watching here. Little tots that are just absolutely cute. Now, do you guys jump around like that when you play in the playground? I hope so. It's really important for things like us. When I say things like us, I say mammals. We need to play to learn. And I'm sure you guys know that you play a lot, and that's how we learn. Now, these little babies have just dropped in the last couple weeks. Lucy wants to know how high an impala can jump. An impala can actually jump 3 meters high. That means they can jump over a fence if they need to. They can also jump 12 meters long. So they could jump long ways, so you can jump across something 12 meters. That's a lot, don't you think? And can you see that they're practicing? Hello, looking straight at us. And look how long their legs are. Their legs are almost, if you look at them next to mama or dad, then you can see that their legs are almost as tall as mama or dad's legs, even though they're only a few weeks old, because they need to be able to jump high and long, like we just explained. Now, these impalas are just eating and grazing and browsing. This is what we call it. We say that they're browsing when they eat the leaves off trees. In the morning, they get quite hungry, much like you guys. Sienna would like to know what they eat. And they have a wide range of vegetation that they eat. So they are herbivores, which means they're vegetarian. They like to eat, like you can see this one here is eating some grass at the bottom, picking up little leaves and clipping them, while some of the other members of the group are grabbing leaves off trees. We've had rain, so it's nice and green and fresh for everybody to enjoy. They really are beautiful animals. Daniel would like to know how we tell the difference between mum and dad. Well, though we may not be able to see which one is mum or which one is dad for a certain baby, we can tell male from female. So what we have on camera right now is a male. Now we know he's a male because of the big horns on his head. Can you see that? Big and twisted horns. He's letting us know that he is a male. And then the ones without horns that are of a similar size would be females. And that's how we know. It's very easy to tell with impala. Now, while I move on from these wonderful impala, who are very pretty, let's go to Brent, who's found something very pretty as well.
Well, we've had success. We found a young female leopard. Her name is Thalamba, and she's just over a year old. And she's on the move. So we're going to try stick with her. And she's going into a little bit of a dip now. So they had an impala kill here yesterday, but it's finished. And I'm not sure where she's planning to go yet. She was here with her mom. Her mom is not around, and that's not uncommon. Well, from the class would like to know, why does a leopard have spots? Well, it's good camouflage, that's why. So when she's trying to hunt, she can blend into her surroundings. Okay, let's just get through here. I think she might be looking for a bit of water to have a drink in. And she was walking down this, across this rock. Oh, there she is. Hello, pretty girl. So she's getting to the age where she's going to leave her mom permanently. Anywhere from about now till she's about 16, 17 months, she'll become independent of her mother and start hunting and trying to set up a territory of her own. Elliot is wondering, where do leopards find food? Everywhere, Elliot. So one of their favorite foods are those impala that you just saw with Trishala. So wherever there's impala or other antelope, that's where leopards find food. You can hear that bird going. Now that's alarm calling. It's telling all the other birds to watch out that there's a leopard. Sophia is wondering what Tlalamba means, which is her name. Sophia, it means playful. When she was a little cub, she was very, very playful. So that's what her name means. Oh dear. She's taking us on a bit of a wild ride. I just want to see which way she goes before I move the car. And she has gone into some difficult country for us to follow. Big steep riverbank. And if she's crossing, which she is, we're going to have to go around to catch up with her. So, sometimes the animals take us on through some very thick bush or very steep banks, and we've got to maneuver our way around to try and keep up with them. But you'll notice the animals are not scared of the cars, and that's because they don't have an instinctive response to the car. Cars only been around for just over 100 years, and if you drive carefully and considerately, they tend to ignore you. Okay, well, I try to catch up with that lovely little leopard. Let's send you back to Trishala, who's now looking at insects.
Hello, welcome back. Now, unfortunately, you didn't see the lovely longhorn beetle on my cap. Are you sure we can't get that, James? Because I thought it was so cute. Maybe next time, just now. But what we are looking at is a community nest spider's nest. Now, a nest is where they live and where they eat, and they are together in a little family almost, much like your own. And you can see their web all around. It's quite an untidy spider web, don't you think? Can you see the little guys? They're working away. Now they all work together like a team so that everybody gets to eat and everybody gets protection. Now some spiders can be quite nasty, especially in Australia. But these spiders, they like to work together, which is quite unusual. You might even say that they're peaceful. Peaceful guys. I like insects. I think that they are very, very cool. Little things that help so much. And there's so many of them everywhere. In fact, in this little nest, you might find maybe even 100 if we're lucky, but it is quite small. Ella would like to know if they are poisonous. I don't actually think they are, Ella. They are completely harmless to us. working away. You can see that? Can you see that one in the middle of the screen very clearly? They're actually quite big, don't you think? I mean, I expected them to be much smaller when they live in a place like that, but not. Now, I wanted to show you this little guy who's on my head, and he is called a longhorn beetle. And can you see why he's called a longhorn beetle? Because his antenna, the little things that are sticking out, I can't, there we go, those little things are quite long, hence the name longhorn beetle. Now, because I love these guys, I am going to keep him there on my head. I think that's very cool. In fact, we're blessed with a lot of insects today. We've got this little guy here, we've got the spiders, and we even had a little butterfly here. Can we get him? Pretty green thing. This is the perfect time of day to see these wonderful insects. Very pretty. Now, like I said, I'm going to go to the water hole. So while I do that, let's go over to Dennis in the Mara, who have got some buffalo.
A very good morning from Masai Mara, that is in the heart of Kenya. We are coming to you live with some wildlife which are very beautiful this morning. And to start us with, we have some buffaloes, which we call the wild cows. Boys and girls, good morning. Welcome again to another episode from Masai Mara. My name is Dennis. I'll be your guide for the day. And behind the camera, we have a gentleman by the name Archie. So please, if you have any question, please don't hold them back. Welcome once again. And let's continue to see what is beautiful in the nature. Welcome. As you can see from a distance, it's very early and bright. The sun is not yet out yet. And what you can see, we have some few buffaloes which are now starting to graze. And just like domestic cows, they normally tend to graze early in the morning and late in the evening. The reason for this is, at the moment, the grass is a bit wet due to the overnight dew. So they'll be able to get a lot of water from the grass. This will now limit them to visiting the river quite often. And without them visiting the river, they are not exposed to the dangers of being killed or being taken down by lions for meals. What you can see on your screen is that we have some few buffaloes with small horns. Those are calves, a very young one. And then you can see another one coming from the right with very huge horns. So that is a boy. For both boys and girls in the wildlife, like in the buffalo setup, both of them do have horns. Thank you so much, Corey, for your question. You wanted to know why buffaloes do have horns. Most of the animals do have horns for defense. Whenever they are fighting, they'll be feeling secured when they are using their horns for security. That is one reason. Another reason is also to show dominance between who is a boy and who is a girl, because for the boys the horns are much bigger and stronger compared to those of a girl. Thank you, Corey, for your question. so you can still see them walking up and down as they graze. Come again, please. And also you can from Kenya we are going to South Africa, where you'll be taken care of by Brent, and he's going to show you some lovely animals too. Goodbye from East Africa.
Well, we're still with our lovely little leopard. She's given us a little bit of a run around, taking us through a river system, but she is now back out in the open and having a snooze. So her mom is not here at the moment, but she might not be too far away, you never know. Well, Hannah would like to know, how many whiskers does a leopard have? Well, Hannah, why don't you count them? I'm not 100% sure. Quite a few. And you can see nice long whiskers. And see, she's breathing quite heavily, even though it's early in the morning, and that's because she's got quite a full tummy. Oh, she's got an itch. Oh, there's a duiker. There, I don't know if she's seen it. There's a little antelope that leopards like to eat, disappearing into that bush. There it is. It's called a grey duiker. Now, she does have a full belly, but she might still hunt. Leopards are opportunists, like most cats. Hayden is wondering, what is the difference between a leopard and a cheetah? Well, Hayden, firstly, leopards are shorter and more robust. They have retractable claws. Cheetah are much skinnier and taller. They are designed for speed rather than stealth. And of course, those retractable, they have semi-retractable claws. Their claws don't go all the way in, which helps when you're at high speeds to stabilize, but is not very good for climbing trees, which leopards do. No, not interested in the little duiker. Jonah is wondering, is a boy or girl leopard stronger? Like with most things in the animal kingdom, Jonah, the males or boys are much stronger and much bigger. A female leopard will weigh about 45 kilos, and a big male leopard in this area will weigh 75, 80 kilos, and in some cases even up to 90 kilos. But the male leopards are much stronger, able to take down bigger prey as well. But there's a payoff for being bigger and stronger. They're not as good tree climbers. So the male leopards aren't as agile as the females. Giving herself a good bath after eating the impala. Okay, well, little Tlalamba gives herself a bath. Let's send you all the way back to the Masai Mara to have a look at some buffalo with Dennis. maybe there's some lions around as well.
Welcome back, boys and girls. As you can see, we are still waiting for the buffaloes to give us some action. But all we can see them doing is just feeding. And there is one which was just looking at us out of curiosity. So that is a boy. And you look at the intersection. If you look the intersection of the horns, if you look at the one which is feeding, it has got a big crown of horn. And difference between a boy buffalo and a girl buffalo. Boys and girls, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you have any questions, please don't hold them back. You can ask them on to me, and I'll... Rocky, thanks for your question. You want to know if buffaloes are stronger than rhinos. The answer to that is that the rhino is more stronger than the buffalo because it has got one horn which is pointing forward. That makes it perfect for it to attack its enemy compared to the buffalo, which the horns are on the side. So it becomes difficult for it to attack seeing what it's attacking. So, Rocky, for your question, the rhino is much stronger than the buffalo. Thank you for your question. And in the background, you can see the sun is coming up. So it's a beautiful sunrise with the buffaloes. Josh, you want to know if buffaloes smell bad? No, they don't really smell bad because of the fact that in the wilderness there is a lot of grass and trees which smell nice. So this making the animals to smell nice as well. But at times when they go into the watering hole, there is something they do which we call it as a mud bath. So you'll find them dirty, but they don't smell bad. Like the one on your screen, you can see it has a lot of dirt on its belly. That is because it was playing with the mud. You know, like when you play in the mud, you become dirty, but you don't smell bad. Thank you, Josh, for your question. Carla, thank you for your question. You want to know what is the name of the bird sitting on the buffalo. That bird, we call it an oxpecker. I repeat, oxpecker, and it gets its name from the color of the beak. You can see it has a red beak, so we call it the red-billed oxpecker. Its main work is to eat parasites which tend to disturb or which are on the body of the buffalo. So their work is to make sure that the buffalo is clean and well groomed. Carla, that is an oxpecker. Thanks for your question. There is another boy feeding on the grass. From me and my friend Archie, we are going to link you to Brent so that you can continue enjoying the show.
Well, here we go. You can see little Kalamba's paws. Isn't she a pretty girl? Now, if you look closer, you can see quite a few little flies around. Now, those are called stable flies, most of them. And they can be quite nasty. And they tend to bite the big cats on their ears. So you'll watch your ears carefully. She gives them a good flick every now and then. As soon as one of those, there we go, nasty flies, you can see them on the back of her ear. So they're actually feeding on blood. And now that we have in our summer months and we've had some rain, there are going to be a lot more flies around, and they can be quite irritating for not only the big cats but all the animals. Sophia is wondering, do all leopards have green eyes? Well, more or less. They're sometimes a bit more yellow. She's looking back to where they had that impala kill. Maybe Mom might come wandering back just now. You can say, even though she's resting, she's very alert, because there are lots of dangers out here for a little leopard. Lions, for example, are a big danger to her. Hyenas, other leopards even. Male leopards in particular. If they don't think they're her dad, they would also try to kill her. So she's got to be very, very alert. And so even when resting, you can see her ears are always on the move. She's listening. Anything that picks up or piques her interest, she'll have a look there, make sure it's safe. Okay, well, I'm going to sit here and wait with this leopard a little longer. Let's send you across to Trish, who's got some kudu.
Before we the spider.
Oh, it seems like Trishala is having some problems with her car, so you're back with us. And the beautiful little Shalamba. Oh, flies are bothering you. Oh, it's flopped down. Hayden's wondering, do leopards use their sense of smell to find prey? Not necessarily. And what they use their sense of smell for more is getting information from other leopards. So how leopards communicate, one of the ways leopards communicate, is to scent mark, which means they'll spray urine, and that urine will leave information for the other leopards. So quite important for the leopards to use their sense of smell. But when it comes to finding prey, what they will most commonly do, they might use their sense of smell a little bit, is to actually use their eyes. They've got very, very good eyesight. Tired little one, full tummy, lots of nice water, lots of nice water around to drink, and all the little puddles from the rain. So she's a very contented leopard at the moment. In the meantime, we're going to send you back to the Mara, to Dennis, who's got one of the largest animals, or not the largest land animal in the world.
Boys and girls, welcome again. We are very lucky. Now we have found some elephants. This is the largest mammal that walks the earth. It's the biggest one, and as you can see, all they do all the time is to feed. They're eating all the time. That is what makes them so big. You know, when you eat a lot of food, you become very big. But make sure you don't eat a lot so that you become bigger than the elephant. So the elephant you're seeing there, all it's doing is getting grass from the ground. And the good thing is that the grass is a bit moist, so they are able to get water from the grass. So if you look closely on the elephant that you're looking, you can see it has two white objects on its face. Those one we call them the tusk. The tusk, or that is what is usually called the ivory of an elephant. And it has got a very big and long nose, which we call the trunk, and also that happens to be the hand of the elephant. As you can see, it's using the trunk to get grass from the ground and put it in the mouth. An elephant will eat the whole day because it needs a lot of food to keep its big body in check. That's why you can see all the time they're just eating and eating and eating. And it's walking slowly into the bush. So an elephant is very strong because it's able to push away the trees and the bushes for it to make its own way. There is another elephant in the bush also feeding. So this is the second elephant we can see. And all it's doing is just to eat. Moving towards another group. Lucy, thanks for your question. You want to know whether elephants sleep when standing. Yes, they do sleep when they are standing, and on most occasions you will find that when they are sleeping, they will go into a place where there is a big mountain or where there are a lot of trees, where when they are sleeping they can lean on the tree or lean on the big rocks from the mountain. So elephants do sleep standing, but for the little ones, the baby elephants, sometimes they lie on the ground. And our elephants are now come again. The elephants have now gone into the bush, and you can see their big ears flapping. The reason why they do this is to keep the parasites away. Boys and girls, sometimes when you have a fly or a mosquito coming to your face, you tend to push it away using your hand. But for the elephants, in order for them to do that, they use their ears. Their ears are the big fans which are able to push away the flies. Right now they're just in the quiet of the forest, small forest here we have, and all they can do is just to eat and to eat all day long. From here, from the elephants now we will be going to South Africa, where Brent is going to show us something nice. Are you happy about the show? Great. Brent?
Well, we're still with our beautiful little leopard. She's just had a drink right next to us. Hello, my girl. Isn't she gorgeous? You can see the puddles from the rain. Well, it's been wonderful having you guys on the drive with us all the way from the land down under. And while our little leopard has a drink, we're going to say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you on another safari soon. Hi everyone. As you can see, we're still with the lovely little Kalamba, who's being quite joyful this morning. Big fat tummy, and she's just fiddling around the edge of the pans at the moment. Where are you going, silly? What are you... She didn't seem to like that. I think she thought it might be a little bit more shallow than it was. Such a beautiful kitty. So remember, now that the school drive is over, send your questions through. #SafariLive. Or put it on the YouTube feed. I don't know what she's trying to do. And keeping herself well entertained. Now you got wet feet. Well, two front feet to the wet feet. Oh, are you taking us back into the drainage line? It looks like she is. Okay, we're going to try stick with her. It's quite a steep little river system, so it can be a bit hairy. In the meantime, we're going to send you back to Trish, who's at Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, I am. I am back here by the water, just like Brent was. But I have something very interesting, at least I think it is. It's a blacksmith lapwing. Now, why I quite like these is I think they're very interesting. They are very entertaining, constantly doing something quite funny. Now, this is one of the few times I have been up to this dam and it is not incessantly calling with its very, very identifiable call. Hopefully he'll make it for us. In fact, that's where they get their name from, blacksmith lapwing. I really want him to call. Now, I want to tell you about something that I observed here that is just testament to how entertaining they can be. We saw a pair of lapwings and a pair of three-banded plovers, geez, my tongue, and they were busy chasing each other, like you cannot imagine. And he'll kind of put his shoulders down and run towards the plover like an angry school teacher. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? And it actually looked like the plovers were just kind of taking the mickey out of him. And kind of egging him on and irritating him. Very funny. I think we watched that for 45 minutes. They just kept on going at it. Now, the last time I came to this dam, it was actually really, really dry. Tuna Cat would like to know if we have had enough rain to fill these dams. Well, like I just said, the last time I had come up here about a week ago, but I doubt it will get much fuller unless we have some really good steady rains. Now we're just having a look around to see what else we can find at the dam. Oh, complaining and yapping, that is the female. They're also trying to get some early morning sunshine. It's a nice temperature right now. Now, I really, really like the markings on their eyes and face. And that is actually where the name comes from. They look a lot like the ancient Egyptian makeup that you see in the ancient Egyptian art. That's where they get their name from. Even though we call them geese, They're actually a type of shell duck. I feel the more we watch them, the funnier they get. And you know, it's not as if they're doing something very funny, but the way they walk, the way they're constantly complaining. For me, that sounds like complaining. I like them. Oh, there we go. Get a bit of a head rub going. Why'd you come home so late last night? He's like, oh, I don't know. Shrug my shoulders, walk away. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Where are you going? I'm sure you guys are used to that kind of conversation. Yeah, I quite enjoy them. Very entertaining. I think they are. You know, there's so many things when you come out here. The longer you watch them, the more you can see how they're a lot like us in certain situations. One bickering, one slapping the other, one kicking the other because they're irritated. Very much like us. Ooh. Paula would like to know if they mate for life. While they are said to be monogamous, meaning that they would mate for life, one thing about them and birds in general is that you'd notice that even though it may say that they're monogamous, if certain things do happen, say the partner dies or there's an issue and they're separated, they will mate with other males. Now that is a red-backed shrike. Now I'm getting a bit better at my birds here. In fact, I'm quite loving it. You know, it's a bit like a treasure hunt, and I can find another bird that I know and that I can recognize, and I'm really enjoying it. And I know a lot of you guys are birders, and I'll gladly take any help from you guys because I'm really enjoying it now. Quite beautiful. It always amazes me how birds manage to balance on these thin branches. Just cleaning him or herself. It's always nice to have a nice shower, get clean in the morning, maybe come down to the dam to get a drink. This is the best behaved bird I've had so far. Now I can also hear a lot of birds going on. Now while I look for anything else at the dam, there's a lot going on. Let's go to Jamie, who's still searching for hyenas.
Well, Trishala might have a lot going on, but I've got absolutely zero happening this morning. I was desperate to try and find the hyenas. I've got a few non-live things to record. Found a grey heron, though, you know. So the excitement abounds. They are not home. I don't know where these hyenas are. I don't know what it is they're doing, where they've decided to plonk themselves. Haha. But they are not here. But I do have some good news. Look at Twin Dams. That's amazing, considering it was completely dry before that big rain. That's quite phenomenal. Look, it's still not full by any stretch of the imagination, but it looks a great deal better. There's actually water absolutely everywhere. It does make life a little bit more difficult for us because the animals don't have to go to one of the waterhole sites to go and drink. There's puddles. I found Tingana, I think it's Tingana's tracks. I found Tingana's tracks coming this way, but he went out and off the property, off down to the south. So he's been around. I could smell him as well. I could smell the smell of buttered popcorn. But he's abandoned us. I don't know. I'm not having very much luck. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Chitwa. You're joking. And now? Where's it gone? Huh! Oi! Come here! Come back here! Right, well done, Craig. Kirst would like to know who that is. I can barely tell it's a hyena. Hang on. Oh, Kirst didn't know what it was either. Yep, it's a hyena. Woohoo! Found a hyena! Well done, Craig. I'm hoping it's one of the mums going back to the den, because that would really make my life a little bit easier. Although, judging by the tracks, they were there last night. Where exactly was that, Craig? Somewhere here. Right. Let's go see who we've got here and if they've got a fat belly. It's been thieving in the night. Bum, bum, bum. They love this area, the hyenas. They often come and swim in twin dams. I just have a feeling this is going to be a wild goose chase this morning. It's just one of those mornings where it does not feel as though luck is on my side. Right, let's see if I can find this hyena, since it's the most exciting thing I've seen all morning. While we do that, Dennis has been doing an absolutely marvellous job for his interview. I know you lot are always incredibly nice to our interviewees. Let's see what he has to say.
And a very beautiful morning from Masai Mara, Kenya. Welcome for another exciting episode with the SafariLive. We are joined today by some few zebras, sorry for that, and some toppies in the background. Welcome to the show. My name is Dennis, and I'm joined by Archie, who will be my camera operator. And in case of any questions, please remember you can engage us on Twitter at hashtag SafariLive, and we will be glad to come back to you with the right response. And I hope you will enjoy the show. For those who are joining us for the first time, welcome again. And this is a very interactive segment, and we invite you to join us and to share us the views and also the questions that you have. As you can see from what we're looking at, we have some zebras, and a group of zebras, we call it a dazzle. So we have a dazzle of zebras, and right now what those two are doing, they're trying to get each other's smell. That is how mostly they get to know each other, and especially during morning hours, it's like a greeting routine for them. Also, during grooming time, you'll get to see them doing that, like nibbling each other. You can see the zebras walking together, and sometimes you'll find like the one we're just watching, walking straight across the whole dazzle and moving to the other end, greeting its colleagues. And also in the background we have some antelopes, which we call them the toppies. Actually, this is the fastest antelope we have in Kenya. There is a young toppie there. Those were zebras' callings. They usually tend to, we call it like a buck. The toppie you see, thank you so much, Maverick. My favorite animal in Africa happens to be the elephant. And the reason why I love the elephant is because they tend to be very gentle, and yet compared to their size, they are very, very gentle, and I refer to them as the gentle giants. The good thing about them is that you can watch an elephant for a whole day and you don't get tired. And I'm hoping to show you some elephants later in the day, Maverick. Thank you so much. Going back to our zebras and also the toppies, they usually have like a symbiotic relationship whereby you find different animals have their own strength in terms of senses. You find maybe like a zebra has got very good sense of smell, and the toppies maybe they have got very good eyesight. So the concept where we say there is safety in numbers and also in masses comes in handy also in wildlife, because the zebras can be able to get a different sense which the toppies cannot get, and this will help them to coexist harmoniously. So on most occasions you find animals, especially herbivores, they tend to feed mostly in the morning hours. Reason being the grass is moist from the overnight dew, so they'll get most of their moisture from the grass, and this will limit them visiting the watering holes quite often, where you find most of the cats, like the lions and the leopards, they'll tend to lay in wait in these vantage points because they know they'll get an easy access to food. So zebras will tend to eat all the day whenever food is available. Same case with the toppies, but the good thing with toppies is that they are ruminants, and ruminants are animals that have 4-chambered stomachs. So the advantage is that they'll be able to feed very fast and very quickly, and when the day comes to during the daytime, they can be able to rest and regurgitate some of the food and chew it further compared to the zebras. Now we'll take a keen interest on the zebras, which is on the screen at the moment. Sometimes you see the belly of the zebra quite big, and more than often we tend to think it's either pregnant, not to say it can be the case in some occasions where you find a zebra is carrying a baby or a foal, but on most occasions you'll find, due to the fact that zebras are non-ruminants, they only have one chamber. The stomach is just one chamber, which we call the cecum. And what happens with the cecum is that most of the chemical breakdown for cellulose, that is in digestion, takes place in this one chamber. So the gas that is produced during the chemical reaction makes them look to have a huge belly. So more than often you tend to think they're pregnant, but they're not. Compared to the antelopes, which are ruminants, they have 4-chambered stomach. So you'll find the chemical breakdown of cellulose is broken amongst the 4 chambers, whereby you find the first chamber is the rumen, where they just eat and store the not so well broken down grass or digested grass. So they're able to regurgitate it further when they are resting. So that is why you see the bellies of most of the ruminants is not as huge compared to the non-ruminants. The non-ruminants being the zebras, being the donkeys and the horses. And that's why sometimes you find all the time when they're just running, all the time there is gas coming out. That's one reason why they have that big belly. So more than often the stripes on the zebras, they are quite unique, whereby Linda, you want to know how long what is the gestation period of a zebra? Usually the zebra has got a gestation period of 8 months, and after 8 months it's able to drop down its calf and it can be able to nurse it from there. So the correct gestation period for a zebra is 8 months. Thank you so much, Linda. So as I was saying, the zebras do have only two stripes. That is the black and the white stripes, for those who didn't know. And each and every zebra has got its own unique print, just like the fingerprints in our hands. They've got all their own independent print. And most of the time they'll spend their day foraging for grass. So in the background, the toppies that you're seeing, you find the fully grown ones. They have some different patterns in colors compared to the young ones. You find the young ones. There is one on the left. Yeah, there is that young. Sorry about the zebras crossing. They have the right of way. So the young toppies are usually fawn or tawny in color, and they will normally start getting the coloration or the different pattern in color at the age of around 4 months. But for now, it's the fully grown ones. You can see they have some dark patches on their flanks. Those are zebras calling. It could be an alarm call or out of excitement. And from the zebras, we're going back to South Africa with Trish.
And I have found a Cape turtle dove. Now, they are very common. We see them all the time, especially walking across the road. In fact, Brent Leo Smith tricked me once when we were doing tracking, and he says, Shala, what made this? What made that? That's how he does it. He kind of spews questions at us. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. He's like, what walks in front of the cars all the time? It's these guys, Cape turtle doves. I think they're quite cute. Though they are very common, I do think they're quite cute. And I can recognize them with their little, you see the black bit around their neck? That's how I know who they are. Now, because that's flown off, let me fly off too. Keep on going. Now, I didn't get a chance to correct myself with the squirrel viewers, but please forgive me for my calling a spider an insect. Of course I know it's not, especially since I love the little guys so much. How could I have done it to them? They are, as you know, an arachnid. Alex would like to know if it is safe to drive without a seatbelt on. Alex, it is never safe to drive without a seatbelt on, especially in the city. You should never do it. But out here, we don't have a lot of traffic, and of course, it kind of is just our vehicles, and we're driving really slow, and we're trying to watch for things. So though we don't have seatbelts on now, you should always be wearing your seatbelt. Remember, we've also got to turn quick around to look for things. So most of the time, it kind of holds us back. So you can see in our vehicle, there's a lot of features that have been taken off. Like, of course, the windscreen wipers, seat belt. I mean, indicators. While I get through this rough patch, let's link to Jamie, who's got a kudu.
I've got a lovely looking kudu, although unfortunately she's now hidden behind the green leaves. We're happy to see the green after the rain, but it does make our job a little bit more difficult. Craig actually spotted a honey badger, can you believe it, a few moments ago. Unfortunately, it was not a very relaxed honey badger, and it managed to evade us completely. We did our best to try and get it on camera, but unfortunately it wasn't having any of it, so we've settled for a kudu instead. We won't complain though. She's a very pretty girl. Now I've noticed, it's interesting, but the mange that's been around over the past few weeks seems to affect the kudu more than it does the other antelope. Kudu and bushbuck, I've noticed, seem quite mangy. You can see she's got balding patches around her neck and the back of her legs, or the inside of the back of her legs. Pretty certain that's mange. It is a naturally occurring disease, and most animals have a level of resistance to it. So the fact that she has mange is probably she hasn't been able to fight it off properly because she hasn't been well fed over the past... Oh, look, nice little comparison there between the size of a kudu and a duiker. One of the smallest and one of the largest. The kudu, in terms of height, is the largest antelope that we see out here. Now, if Dennis could spot an eland for you, which of course is a member of the same antelope tribe, that is the largest antelope that you could see on our live safaris. But out here on Djuma, you are very, very unlikely to see an eland. In fact, I would say it's almost impossible. They do occur in the Greater Kruger, but they occur a little bit further to the north. There's another lovely lady. She looks pregnant to me. Hopefully we'll be seeing little baby kudu soon as well. So one thing I love about this time of year is the number of little animals wandering around. We should be seeing baby warthog. There's lots of baby impala about. Sally would like to talk about tannins. Okay, Sally, you asked for it. Right, so after the past 3 very dry years, the plants around here as a defense mechanism are pumped full of a chemical known as tannins. It gives the leaves a very bitter taste, and if you were to eat the leaves of something that's high in tannins, like a guarri or a silver cluster leaf, you would find that your saliva dries out almost completely. Now, apparently, the high levels of tannins in the animal's diet, even though they have been eating, has been affecting their gut bacteria. So, you know, of course, even with ruminants, there is a degree of good, what would you call it, good bacteria in their various stomach chambers and intestines that help with the digestive process. Now, apparently the tannins disturb that balance of bacteria, and as a result, the animals, even though they're eating, cannot digest as effectively. And so what you find is that, or at least what you found before the rains came and the leaves became green and new, was that there were some very, very skinny kudu, nyala, bushbuck, all of the sort of the antelope that rely predominantly on browsing. The impala were affected as well, but not as badly, and that's why we had a spate of natural antelope deaths around this area. We kept finding dead nyala. Our home, where we live, became a retirement village for older nyala and bushbuck, and very sadly they kept on dying in our garden, which was most unfortunate. And of course, it obviously affects the older individuals more than it does the younger. The younger just have a bit more in terms of stored resources in order to be able to survive. Of course, it is one of Brent's favorite subjects. He does like to talk about tannins. I have a question for all of you. And the reason I have a question is because I'm actually looking at our ID kits of the Nkuhumas. Does anybody figure out which lion was mating with that evoker male? Was it the Nkuhuma, the younger Nkuhuma lioness? Didn't look that young though. Sorry, completely different topic. I'm just looking at the ID kits caught my eye. And I'm staring at them, trying to figure it out. Omkar wants to know if Gogo the bushbuck is safe. We haven't seen Gogo the bushbuck. Jane, who is my... I don't know why I called her Jane, but she's been Jane in my mind since I started working here. She's still around. So she's the one that hangs out around Inga's, and she's got some very clear notches or holes in her ears that allows me to identify her. But Gogo apparently has not been seen for a little while, which is very unfortunate, because I think it might mean that Gogo is no more. There is, however, a baby bushbuck wandering around the DRC, so at least we've got new life as well. So cute. Apparently Gogo disappeared when Eggsy disappeared. Well, Eggsy didn't disappear, we know where he went. He went to Joburg. But Gogo the bushbuck obviously was so deeply traumatized by his absence that she decided it was time to either vanish off somewhere else or shuffle off this mortal coil. Or Eggsy took her with her to Joburg. With him. No, he didn't, I promise. Please don't start a rumor that we're kidnapping animals and taking them out of the sands. It's not the case. I am only joking. Oh, Gogo. It's actually quite sad for us. You would never really think about getting attached to the animals that we see around camp, but it does happen. And I do think of them as mine. I don't think they'd agree, but the family of dwarf mongoose that lives at the house that I live at Inga's have had babies. They've got little ones with them, and they come every day and they make their little chirping noises, and they hide under the deck next to the swimming pool, and sometimes they come into the room. I walked in once and one was just flat on my floor, because obviously the floor was nice and cool. It was a very hot day, and this poor mongoose was just on the floor, and he got such a fright when it saw me. And I got a bit of a fright as well, because I just came around the corner and nearly stepped on it, and was desperately trying to run, but its feet couldn't get purchase on the slippery floor. So the dwarf mongoose are around. They're getting more and more relaxed around us. And Gregory is back. Gregory the camp tortoise. She has made an appearance, and it very much is a she. Gregory is wandering around trying to bite people's toes. I think I mentioned that yesterday. She saw me and came running ready to bite my toe. I was ready for her. Might not be able to outpace many things, but I can definitely outpace a tortoise. Well, she moves fast. I said yesterday it adds a new element of fear to the morning meeting, because of course we're all wearing flip-flops or sandals. It's hot. And you never know when Gregory might sneak up and take a chunk out of your toe. She's savage. Gregory is a speaks hinge tortoise. She's brought a boyfriend into camp before. And she's had babies. Well, we assume they're Gregory babies. It's a bit difficult to tell because tortoises are not exactly the maternal type. What was her baby's name, Kirst? Robert. Robert Jr., I see. So Greg's back. I'm going to take one last desperate attempt to check the hyena den. Let's go to Trish, who apparently has found a feathered friend.
Yes, I think, and typically flown off just as I start speaking about him. And we can still get a bit of a view of him. It's just flown around the back. And yes, he or she is my friend. I remember when I was on my interview drive, that's basically all I had, was a beautiful starling. Now, I do really like their colors. No, we can't see it right now. But I do really like their colors. It's a nice iridescence, and especially when they're in the sun, you can see beautiful colors on them. And the closer you get, you can see variations in that color even. And I think it's really interesting how that happens. It actually happens because the light scatters in different ways, because the keratin is layered in different ways, which scatters different colors, and now we see these beautiful iridescent colors. But let us move on. Since he has decided, no, you've done your interview now, I don't need to stick around. I've been driving through. It's actually quite nice on these quieter days. I get to see how beautiful the place actually is. You see the nice vegetation, the sunshine peeking through the leaves, glows, and I quite like that. The leaves grow, sort of, it looks like little lights on trees, and I like that. It seems like everything's a bit brighter, the birds are chirping a bit louder. Oh, let me just go back there. Lily would like to know, or would rather like me to do some quizzes. I know Brent said that he's handed the Quizmaster title to us now, and I can definitely do that. Wow, that's pretty. In fact, let's start right now. Viewers, me taking on Brent's personality now, and Quizmaster, what is this? Good things to look for is the beak, shape of beak. Look at the colors, the eyes or eyebrows. These are great indications of what that may be. Very pretty. I've seen a lot of these. Ray guessed a roller, but he didn't say which type. Getting there, Ray. Getting there, Ray. I'd like to have a bit more of a specific answer, but half a point, Ray. Definitely half a point. James! He's got it. He says it's a European roller, and it is. I haven't seen too many of them, obviously, but very pretty nonetheless. But of course he's gone. He knew I was coming. He's high up in the tree. Let's look for something else with Dennis, who's got a giraffe who can reach right up to where that roller was sitting. Maybe quite not so high.
And we are very fortunate to come across a group of giraffes, whereby we have quite a sizable number of them. On the screen you can see 4 of them. So a group of giraffes, we call them a tower of giraffes. And right now, as you can see, I'm trying to zoom in out on one, which is trying to get some green leaves off a bush. So it's quite tricky for giraffes when they are feeding on low level bushes, because as you can see, it's trying to split its legs, the forelegs apart, so that it can have a nice angle of inclination, so that it can be able to access the green leaves that it wants. And looking closely to the one which we're just focusing on, you can see that it has got some tufts on its hair, on its horns, sorry. So for giraffes we have what we call ossicons. For them we don't call them horns because they are fused cartilages, and the ones which are tufted on top, those are females. That is one of the main way to differentiate between a male and a female giraffe. For the females, they have tufts on their ossicons, but for the males it's usually flat on top. They don't have the tufts on their ossicons. Also that one in the background, it's also a female. The one we're looking at now, you just look closely to the ossicons and you can see it has some tufts also. So by tufts I mean the hair you can see, or the fur which you can see on top of their bony ossicons. So for the males it will be flat on top. So giraffes are the tallest land mammal we have, and on most occasions they are considered to be the animals with the most complex cardiovascular system. This is in relation to their height and the way their heart system operates. Usually the heart is between the forelegs, actually where you can see it's like shoulders. That is where the heart is usually located, and they usually have a very, very big heart, so that they are able to pump blood all the way to the major organs. And considering the fact that a giraffe, a fully grown giraffe, can measure up to 7 meters all the way to the head, so it needs a very strong heart, and mostly you find the heart of a giraffe is usually 12 kilos in weight, and it has got almost a 1-inch wall thickness. This is able to make the heart more masculine, so that it can be able to pump blood all the way to the head and all the way to the limbs. Another interesting thing we can see in the giraffe is, if you look closely to the limbs, just below the knee, if we focus on that, you see they tend to have a very tight skin, very, very tight. So this is meant to prevent buildup of blood pressure in their lower limbs, so thus making it easy for the blood in the lower limb to be pumped back to the heart by the tightness of the skin. So actually also in the human concept we've adapted something from the giraffes, whereby we normally have what we call the compression socks, which are mostly worn by ladies during flights. So this prevents them from pressure buildup in their lower limbs. Giraffes always tend to eat the lush green leaves. Giraffes don't have a hard time standing up, because most of the time they are much comfortable when they are standing, because it takes them a while. Their reflex when they are lying down to get up, it's quite tricky, especially during an alarm situation whereby they have to be very fast on their limbs. But on most occasions you'll find giraffes tend to stand all through. And when you find some lying down, there has to be some which are usually up, so that they can be able to have a lookout. So that is one of the reasons why you'll find, on most occasions, you don't find giraffes lying down. Thank you. So giraffes are also known to have one of the longest tongues in mammals, measuring up to 18 inches long. So this enables them to wrap their tongue around some of the leaves that they want and then just brush them off, and they are actually left in the mouth. So, and just look closely to the nostrils of the giraffe. They are somehow masculine also. So this enables them to close their nostrils when they're actually getting into their mouth part into the bush. Reason being, whenever they're getting into the bush, sometimes you find you have the cocktail ants or some insects in the bushes. So in order for them not to feel irritated by the insects or the ants getting into their nostrils, you'll find them squeezing their nose and shutting them off so that they cannot be able to be interfered with by the termites. Another thing I'll just let you notice is the gait, the way they are walking. You can notice it's 2 limbs on one side, 2 limbs on the other side. And as they do this, they are able to maintain a good body balance with their neck, whereby you find the neck tend to move sideways as they are also walking. 2 legs on one side, 2 legs on the other side. So this is one of the unique walking traits for the giraffe. And in some occasions, you'll find them moving from one bush to another. So sometimes you ask, have they really finished eating green leaves on that particular bush they were in? So they do get also irritation sometimes also from insects, and that's why you find them moving from one bush to another. You can see the giraffe there with its 4 legs split apart. So this enables its neck to come a bit lower to the ground, and they can be able to access the green leaves in the lower bushes. There you go. So Anne-Marie, you'd like to know for how many years I've been practicing guiding? I would say from 2006 up to date, and I can say it's one of the best rewarding jobs ever, because I get to be in nature and doing what I love the most all the time. So this is an interesting field, so I can say for more than 10 years now I've been practicing guiding in real field, and it's quite an interesting job. In case you have anybody who would want to take up guiding as a career, I would really recommend you to tell them to do so, because it's very rewarding on the fact that you get to enjoy nature, and nature is never the same. Each and every different day there is a different experience for it. Thank you so much. So as you can see, mostly some of the bushes the giraffes tend to feed on, sometimes they do have thorns, and these might have an effect on the tongue of a giraffe. You can see like this one here trying to enjoy its catch. So in order for them to do that, the tongue is usually dark in color. You can see it coming out. It's usually dark in color. This enables the giraffe to wrap its tongue around the twig and get some of the tender leaves out of the twig. It does not need the whole twig, it just needs the leaves. So as you can notice, the upper lip of the giraffe is somehow prehensile. It's able to move its lip sideways, and also the tongue, as you can see, it's dark in color. So the tongue has got some melanistic elements in it, because on most occasions it's usually exposed to the sun. So the dark color prevents the tongue from the harsh African sun. The upper lip, as I was saying, it's prehensile. It's able to move in between the twigs and get some of the fresh, lush green leaves, which are very nutritious to it. In the background, you can see a young giraffe. From the giraffes, over to you, Brent, in South Africa.
Hello, well, we've left. Unfortunately, she went to sleep right in the deepest point of that little river system, and we did not have any signal there. So we've headed back onto Djuma, and we're going to have a quick look for Hasana. But first, check the Moati River. I think Tandi, we followed number is last night, is probably on a big territory. Sent mark off. So just have a few quick, well, not a few, more to see if I find any tracks of her back on Djuma. It's probably the best place to see tracks after the rain. Just start driving it now. Of course, always a chance for some good birds down in the riverbed.
Sorry about that, everyone. It seems as though Brent has disappeared off your screen. That's okay. We're here. We are still with you. He's just going to go through a bad signal area while he goes off searching for little Hasana. Big Hasana. Not so little anymore. I have absolutely no updates for you, though. I mean, I've really had a thoroughly unsuccessful day. Oh, I did actually find... This morning, Brent started with lion tracks. I found where the lion went. He went straight through Djuma, out west. So that Avoca male has, I assume it's an Avoca male, has wandered off to the west. Mr. Public, gremlins don't leave tracks. Otherwise, we'd be able to follow them and we'd be able to anticipate where they're going to strike next. So gremlins actually, I mean, I've done quite a lot about the classification of gremlins in the past, and how there's two different types of gremlins. There's electrical gremlins and there's mechanical gremlins. And they don't actually leave tracks. It's one of their defining features. The only thing that you could sort of use to guess that a gremlin has been around is a slight faint buzz in the air. That feeling of, I'm going to get into this car and something's not going to be wrong, or something's not going to work well. For example, this morning the gremlins actually unscrewed my brake line, so I am largely without brakes or stopping power, and there's just no evidence. I mean, the only thing that was left behind was a little puddle of brake fluid dripping slowly, taunting me. And yes, well, no, gremlins actually feed on tech teams' tears. That's how they survive. You know that whole story about not feeding gremlins after midnight? Well, it doesn't matter with these gremlins. They are fed at all times. If there are tears from the tech team, alternatively tears from us, when the mechanics don't work, it's what they live on. That and our hopes and dreams. Last night they attacked the generator that linked to the final control. We've been having a lot of what's known as load shedding in South Africa. Essentially, our power service provider cannot quite keep up with the demand. So there are planned power outages during the day. And yesterday it was our turn to have 2 sessions of load shedding, one in the afternoon, which of course was greatly appreciated by all people when at the hottest time of the day their fans didn't work, and then 1 in the evening, and unfortunately it just so happened that things went wrong. The gremlins revel when there's load shedding. It's their favorite time. They breed. Lauren, you want to know if gremlins fly? Well, you see, the problem is that none of us actually know how it is they move around. We assume that they fly, because of course they don't leave tracks, but we've never actually seen them move in order to be able to determine whether or not that's the case. They might be like little bush babies that spring from one place to another without ever touching the ground, sort of long-legged leaps from one vehicle to the other, cackling manically all the while with their little spanner hands ready to break open the cars. The electrical ones, I think, move through the cables. Oh, Sarah would like to know whether or not they leave behind a scent. They do, actually, because they scent mark. Gremlins are actually territorial, and they do occasionally fight over which area of our vehicle and or electronics they're going to destroy that night. So they do leave behind a scent. It is the smell of burning rubber or electrics, and for some reason the smell of burnt sugar. None of us can figure out why that is the case, but the smell of burnt sugar. So yes, they do actually leave behind a smell. Those with very sensitive noses can sniff out whether or not the gremlins have been around or not. I'm starting to think there is a third species of gremlin. I might be wrong. It might be a newly discovered one that's running ahead of me as I'm driving this morning, chasing everything away. Pretty convinced, actually. Or perhaps I'm just trying to explain away my bad luck. Karen, oh, I think we discussed the gestation period of gremlins when I had that long chat about them. What did we decide? I actually think their gestation period is very, very short, because they are very successful when it comes to breeding. Their gestation period is roughly the hours between drives. So that's their rough gestation period. So we finish at 8 o'clock in the morning, we start again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is 8 hours of gestation. We then finish at 7 in the evening, start again at 5, which the night gremlins have a slightly longer gestation period. No one's ever seen a gremlin baby. They must exist though. Joshua, you want to know if James Henry is in cahoots with the gremlins? Ah. It's a shikra. Hold on, I'll come back to that in a moment. Can you see it there, Craig, or is it behind a branch? I can see it from my angle. Yeah, there you go. Oh, it was having a drink. That's so cool. Ah, the gremlins didn't get that one. Look at the eye. Let me just take my foot off the brake. It's not Craig, it's me. Sorry, me, my bad. Not Craig. Now the car doesn't want to stay in place. I've upset the gremlins. Look at that. That is so cool. Such a striking bird. Their eyes cherry red in the males. I've been waiting to see whether or not we get another breeding pair building nests around about this time. This car is slowly moving. Don't know why. I'm going to just give it a little jiggle to stop it. There we go. It's still moving. I don't understand. It's in gear. Okay, put my foot back on the brake. So there we go. I love shikras. Tiny little bird of prey. It's around about the length of my forearm, to give you a sense of scale, from the top of its head to the tip of its tail. No! Off it goes. And designed to catch things like insects, small snakes, frogs, anything like that. It might even, I think it was having a drink, but it might even have been after frogs. There's a lot of these puddles now around and about. They're going to be dry in the next day if it doesn't rain. Today's going to be, it's predicted to be 38 degrees centigrade, which is 100 Fahrenheit. Gremlins actually breed in both extremes of hot and cold. Apparently it's going to pour all weekend. Oh, gremlins will love that. They love extreme heat and they love extreme weather conditions. Rain. Rain is when gremlins breed the most. In fact, I think they might even replicate that way. You see, no one's ever seen a gremlin breeding. So I think when they get wet, they actually go through a process of asexual reproduction, where they just split. It's here. I'm just going to move forward a little bit for Craig. And then I'm just going to show you the shikra one more time, and then we can finish the question about whether or not James is in cahoots. Here we go. That's beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. Quite intimidating looking, especially in this sort of light. Where are you going? Where are you going? Wonder what it's up to. Perhaps swooping, looking for flying insects around the water. Right, is James Henry in cahoots with the gremlins? No. We've all been polygraphed to make sure that none of us are actually helping the gremlins out, and we can confirm that James Henry is not in cahoots with the gremlins. I think he would be deeply insulted at the suggestion, but you can ask him directly if you would like. James is not in cahoots with the gremlins. James, of course, loves. Kirst says that she's not convinced that he's not in cahoots with the gremlins. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I could be. Oh, my handbrake's up. Maybe I'm in cahoots with the gremlins. You never know. So Kirsty says that she's not convinced that James isn't in cahoots with the gremlins. I don't know. I feel as though perhaps, you know, corruption runs deep, and it is a worldwide problem. So perhaps there is an inside man or woman in our team who's helping out the gremlins every now and again, sneaking out in the middle of the night and letting them out of their boxes in return for a morning or an afternoon off. No, can't be James. I don't think it's James. And I know it's not James because he was very cross about the power outage yesterday. Oh, well, that could be to throw us off his trail, though. Patsy, you want to know if we've tried using infrared to find gremlins? We have. It seems as though they don't actually they don't come out when the camera's pointed at them with the infrared light. I have heard that if you use UV light, there's a possibility that they might glow, but none of us have ever actually tested this theory. We've gone out. Gremlins are very clever, and the more I think about it, the more I realize that there must be somebody in cahoots with the gremlins, because we go out at night to lay a trap with our UV scorpion torches, and that day or that night everything works perfectly and nothing goes wrong. And I can only imagine that is because somebody is feeding them inside information and letting them know about our plans of attack. The Gremlin War is one without an end, as with most wars actually. It was a bit philosophical. But the more we beat them back, the more they breed, reproduce, and find different places to attack. I really hope there's no new viewers wondering what on earth is going on. This person driving around, not looking at anything, and talking about gremlins. They're going to severely question our sanity. It makes sense, okay? It makes sense if you know the full story. Now Lily, who is 7 years old, would like to know if the tech team have tried to put the gremlins in a timeout. Lily, they have tried it, and the gremlins are so naughty that even a timeout doesn't work. They don't even listen to the tech team although the tech team are the only ones who can sort of control them and sort of tell them what to do, but sometimes they rebel. Well, that was fun. I'm glad you all kept up with me and enjoyed that conversation. Let's go across to Lauren, who I'm sure has got something more sensible to say.
Yes, good morning, good morning. I have swapped seats with Trishala, so it is now Lauren in the driver's seat, and we have spotted a woodland kingfisher. Now, it's literally just been a week or two of these birdies coming around, and they are everywhere now. You cannot go on a drive without coming across a woodland kingfisher. Oh, and there we go. The kingfisher move. Let's see if we can still catch it. It's just on a branch over there. And of course, they have the most, you can actually hear it. You can hear a different one calling. James is probably going to cringe right now, but it does go something like chip, chirr. I think that was not a bad attempt. And it's a very, very obvious call. We hear it day in, day out. And I got a 9 out of 10 from Kirsty. Thank you. I thought it was pretty good as well. You can even hear them calling at 4 in the morning once I've just woken up. So you can't avoid them. And of course they are migratory, so they have just arrived here. And there has been a lot of rain so far, so I imagine they're enjoying their stay. Oh, there was another one. There's 2 woodlands. Now they do have a beautiful and quite amusing mating dance. That would be wonderful to see, but I think that one was just annoying, the other one there. Now they generally do leave the area around March, April, but again, if there isn't much rain and the area doesn't go so lush, they would leave earlier. But hopefully they'll stay around for some time. And they very, very rarely sit on the ground. Kingfishers are not known to be ground-dwelling birds because of their weak little legs, so you always see them perched up in the branches. Now the name itself kind of gives it away, but woodland kingfisher tends to stay in the wooded area. You don't tend to find them around water holes necessarily like you do the other species of woodland. Question from Chris. Do I think birds have eyebrows? That is a wonderful question. I doubt they do have official eyebrows like us, but many birds do have markings on their heads that do look like eyebrows, and you can sort of give them the human qualities and say that they have eyebrows, but I don't imagine his eyebrows quite like ours. And I highly doubt they maintain them like we do either. And of course there is the white-browed scrub robin, which I am fastly learning that bird, and that is obviously named after the white markings on the head that do look like eyebrows. But of course, they're not eyebrows. But thank you for that wonderful... Oh, there we go. It's off. The woodland has flown away. So we shall continue our journey. It has been a birdie kind of morning, so let's see if we can find more birds for you. We tend to be going for the smaller animals today than the bigger animals, so let's see what we can find. So while we search and keep searching on the ground and in the skies, we do have a spotted hyena for you.
Well, it looks like it's Corky, and I think she might be going to have a spa day. She's heading towards Chelepan. She might go for a swim. Let's see where Corky goes. I'm hoping she comes down to the water's edge. She might not. And we've been tracking that male lion whose tracks we had earlier today as well. He's also headed in this general direction. We can't see where his tracks come out just yet. Corky is not going for the pan, not going for a swim. Now it's quite warm, I don't think she's going to move around for too much longer today before she finds a nice shady spot. Sniffing something. What you sniffing, Corks? Some smell has caught her attention in this area. Ray is wondering how is Corky's wound from the lion. It's healed up quite nicely, Ray. Almost invisible now. And off she goes. Yeah, we're going to keep looking for these lion tracks. The last tracks we're heading in this general direction. And I can't find anything coming out on Twin Dams. There's one more big game path that I want to have a look at. In the meantime, let's go across to Jamie, who's got a tortoise, as Lauren would call it.
I do have a tortoise. I do. I don't think that was very Scottish at all. That's not what Lauren sounds like. I've never been very good at imitating accents. Guess who, guys? For those of you who were watching yesterday's sunset safari, it is our broken-shelled female who was being frantically courted by a male yesterday on the sunset safari. He was following her around with great intensity. I cannot think of any other way to describe it. This morning, she's just lonely. There's no one here. No sign of the intrepid male who yesterday looked keen, but never managed to get much further than sort of putting his nose quite close to the back of her shell. He did not succeed. I wonder. We don't know he didn't succeed. Perhaps last night, under the cover of darkness, he finally managed to climb his own personal mountain, so to speak. There she goes. Yesterday we put music to the sighting that we had of the tortoises. Today I think Lonely is the perfect song to describe her. Or perhaps I Will Survive. All by myself. Maybe she's relieved. I have to say, she didn't look very interested in him yesterday. She was far more excited by the new blades of green grass that she was finding. And in fact, looked thoroughly unimpressed by his attempt to woo her. That broken shell we spoke about yesterday, I don't know if something stepped on her or made an attempt to eat her, but whatever it was crushed the bone of her shell at the top there. But it's an old injury, and it's obviously healed up nicely, so the risk of secondary infection or anything like that doesn't seem to have taken hold. And although it might make her a little bit more vulnerable, she seems to have survived and will probably be okay. Quite a big leopard tortoise. That's almost immediately how we knew that it was a situation with females and with a female and a male, because the females are that much larger than the males. A leopard tortoise, for those of you that do not know. I don't know if I mentioned that. Bob, you want to know if they bury their eggs? They do indeed bury their eggs. Depending upon the size of the female, she will lay somewhere between around about 6 and 20 eggs, somewhere in that region. And what she'll do is, if the ground is very hard, she will use some water that is stored in something called a bursa, which is basically just a generic name for a storage sack. So she has water stored there, and she will release it onto the ground so that she can dig a hole to bury her eggs. And indeed, they are then covered up. Their incubation period depends upon the temperature of the soil, and that, of course, will also determine whether or not it hatches male or female. a process that I've found absolutely fascinating. The fact that certain reptiles, the sex of the youngsters is determined by incubation temperature. That's crazy. Something so different to the way that we understand, you know, the process of reproduction in males and females. Nature Girl, she's in exactly the same place as to where we saw her yesterday. Well, almost. I mean, she's about 10 meters or so from where we saw her yesterday. What's the matter, girl? Did he leave you? It's the way it goes with tortoises. Love and leave. The same approach that they have to mothering as well. They lay their eggs and off they go. Okie dokie, well, I think we'll leave our broken-shelled and broken-hearted female to her breakfast. She doesn't seem to be getting up to too much. Since Corky made an appearance, I might, dare I say, pop back to the den, but I think it's too hot for them. Let's go to Dennis and the Mara River and find out whether there's anything interesting there.
And we are here sitting in the banks of Mara River, and just by the shore of the river we have a crocodile which we've managed to locate, and as you can see, it's just lazily sleeping by the banks. So crocodiles are what we call ectothermic reptiles, whereby they tend to regulate their body temperature according to the surrounding. So right now it's enjoying the morning sunshine, so this is a clear indication that the water was very cold for it. And if you look closely at the mouth, it's wide open. So this is also another way for the crocodiles to cool themselves. As you can see, sometimes they don't have the sweat pores or the sweat glands on their scaly skin, so they tend to use their mouth for thermal regulation. When it's very hot, they tend to open their mouth and face it towards the wind so that they can be able to get the cool air. And also when it's very cold, they can be able to open up their mouth and also get warm heat from the sun. So on most occasions you'll find that crocodiles tend to swim a lot in the river, but right now, as you can see, the water levels are also not so very high, so they tend to come out quite often so that they can also get the heat. That is the Mara River. So actually this is one of the major part which plays a big role in the migration cycle of the wild beast. Anthony, this is not a very big crocodile compared to the monster or the giant Nile crocodiles that we do get. But roughly this is around 2.5 meters, so it's quite a sizable crocodile. But in Nile's crocodiles, we have those which have Nile crocodiles which have recorded a length of almost 6 meters, and they can weigh up to almost 800 kilos. So this is quite a sizable crocodile, not so very big, Anthony. Another interesting thing with the crocodile is that you'll find they tend to feed mostly on yes. Sally, thank you for your question. This crocodile, I'll give it an approximate almost like 6 years. Reason being, it has changed a lot of its color. So the younger the crocodile, the less dark it is. And from the size of this crocodile, it's not that big to give it an estimate of almost 10 years, so it's between 6 and 7 years thereabout. And sometimes people tend to confuse crocodiles with alligators, and I will say that alligators, you don't find them in Africa, so that's one of the advantages. There is another crocodile lying by the rocks, so you can see it's trying to expose its backside into the sun so that it can get the heat. And quite often you tend to confuse the crocodiles with the rocks behind. Wow, this is the water levels have gone down, so that's why you're able to see the backs of the crocodiles quite often. And in the background we have some birds, the white birds. We call them the great egret. Right now what they're doing, they're just sitting there trying to take any available opportunity so that they can be able to catch some tadpoles. And there you can see the back of another crocodile. You can see the lines on their backs. Yeah, there is the egret trying to look for some small fish and maybe tadpoles. They tend to feed on aquatic insects. They're there patiently waiting. Well, we also have another interesting bird here. We call it the sacred ibis. It's characterized by the black and white. It's much similar to the Hadada ibis, but the Hadada ibis is usually black in color. This is black and white. It's usually called the sacred ibis because in Egypt they usually have those deities or the gods that they pray for, and they usually have one of their gods in the shape of a sacred ibis. So that's why it got its name, the sacred ibis. And you can see it's busy trying to look around for anything it can get in the water. Tadpoles, small fish, aquatic insects, they form most of their diets, and they are aided by their long bill, which they are able to just swim across or put it through the water, and with the help of their tongue they can be able to move their bill sideways, and anything sensitive that touches their tongue they can be able to grasp it. That is a sacred ibis trying to look for its early morning breakfast. George, I didn't get your question clearly. I would kindly ask that you repeat the question again. George, yes, crocodiles do eat birds as well, and they normally take advantage of the wading birds. By wading birds, I mean birds like the geese, which tend to swim across the water. So the crocodiles will take any available advantage or opportunity to get the easiest meal possible. So yes, they can eat the birds as well. Thank you for your question. So from the banks of Mara River with our crocodile, we're going now to pursue through to South Africa for another exciting segment of the show.
And look what we have here, one of my absolutely favorite animals, and I'm sure everyone is waiting for me to announce this. This is the Speaks Hinge tortoise. That's what we have here, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was in the middle of the road when we were driving, so just to get it out of the way of the vehicle we had to shift it a little bit. But let me tell you more about these reptiles. It's really important that you don't handle or touch them too much. Now, it may seem like the shell is a sort of external part of the body that, you can touch and they won't feel. That's actually not correct. So if you imagine this little animal to have a rib cage, what the shell is, the top part of the shell, which we call the carapace, is actually a rib cage that has fused together. So it's fundamentally made from bone, and then it's covered in layers of keratin, which is of course the same makeup as our fingernails and hair. So it does have a blood supply and it does have nerves. So these animals really, really don't like to be touched. Now this is of course the same as sea turtles. Another one of my favourites. So you just avoid touching them at all costs. They do have a little sac inside called a bursa sac where they store water. Now they store it for times of drought, and of course the females essentially need this for when they're about to dig a hole and lay eggs. They moisten the soil sometimes with the water from this sac. So if they get a bit of a fright or you handle them too much, they can release this water, which leaves them with no storage of water in their body. So that's why you must avoid handling them, but you must also avoid running over them, which is why we had to move this little guy. Now I definitely can't sex it from here because it's just nuzzled himself into the vegetation, obviously avoiding us and potentially trying to get a little bit cooler. Even although reptiles are ectothermic, getting their body temperature from the sun, it is incredibly hot. I don't even know the time, but it's definitely before 8 o'clock and the temperatures are very, very high. So it will be enjoying the warmth, but of course once it gets too hot it will need to cool down. Gillian, that's a really good question. Now, sea turtles, of course, belong in the sea. So there's actually many, many differences between them. So this is a little symbol for a sea turtle, and they actually have flippers. So fundamentally they've got the same body design, but they swim with flippers, which are very different from what this little guy here has. They have legs with clawed feet, which they need to sort of get traction on land and for digging. So that's the first main difference. But sea turtles do breathe air. So although they live in the ocean, they must always come up for air to breathe. These little guys also breathe air, so they have the same fundamental body outline, but their environment is completely different. Speaks Hinge tortoise are obviously terrestrial, sorry I just said tortoise again, my bad, and obviously the sea turtles live in the ocean. Now, depending on the species of sea turtle, some are vegetarians, some are carnivorous, and some are omnivores. There's different species, and the Speaks Hinge is actually a omnivore. They do tend to enjoy millipedes. They love crunching away on millipedes, so they definitely eat other animals as well. So this little guy's gone into hiding, so we're just going to move on, make sure there's nothing else on the road as we move. So yes, there's many differences between sea turtles. Sorry, Kirsten, can you just repeat that? Okay, so let's head over to Brent and see exactly what he is waiting for.
Well, we are gambling. I was following those male lion tracks, then I heard there was a very big pack of wild dogs just to the north of our boundary, and they're probably a couple of 100 meters from us, and I'm just really hoping they decide to turn to the south and run out and come say hello this morning. But for now, it's a bit of a patience game, hoping that they are going to come through. And of course, with dogs, you never know which direction they might end up going and when. They can change their direction in an absolute split second, depending on what's happening around them. So we're just going to have to play the patience game right here and hope we get some puppies to end this morning, or for the last hour at least. I'm not sure how many, but a big pack, I'm assuming, is over 15 at this time of the year with all the little pups with them. So fingers crossed that they come this way. Now, while we play the patience game right here on the boundary, we're going to send you all the way back to the Masai Mara to Dennis, who's found some banded mongoose.
And from the crocodile, we come back here and we're lucky to come across some small creatures, which we call them the banded mongoose. We call them the banded because if you look closely on their back, they have some dark gray and somehow silverish in color bands, whereby sometimes we tend to call them the zebra mongoose because of the stripes. But more than often we call them the banded mongoose. So they are very social animals, and they tend to be very active very early in the mornings or when the sun is not yet that hot. And mostly they are carnivorous, taking advantage of available bugs and beetles in the ground. As you can see, they're trying to dig to get some of their insects from underneath the earth's surface. So they have got a very good sense of smell, so they're able to smell them from a distance. And you can see their front limbs are usually very strong, and they have strong claws which enable them to dig. Right now you can see it's trying to smell around, sniff around, see if there is something that is handy underneath. And at any available opportunity, you see them trying to nibble on something. So they take advantage of anything that is available, be it lizards, snakes. They've been known to take down big snakes like the black mambas, beetles, lizards, and also some ground fruits. The mongoose are also able to, they have the capability to eat scorpions. They have well adapted, and their claws mostly enable them to grasp up and especially tear off the poisonous part of the scorpion, which happens to be the tail, and they eat the rest of it. So yes, they do eat scorpions as well. Most of the time you'll find them foraging together as a family, like they are doing now. We have close to almost 20 mongoose, and all you can see them doing is trying to scratch the ground and see if something will be available for them to have breakfast. So what happens is that before they start foraging, they normally get up very early in the morning. Beverly, you want to know what they're digging for and how sure they are if there is something under the ground. Is, as you can see, what they're doing, they're trying to smell. And the moment they get a smell or wind of something that they're interested in, that's when you see them trying to scratch. And sometimes you'll find whenever they're scratching, sometimes they don't get what they were looking for. So maybe it's a wrong call, or maybe they didn't get the right smell to be able to know what they want to dig for. So at sometimes they do fail to get what they're looking for, and that's why you see them digging slowly or quickly, and then they move on to another patch where they try to dig. And in case they get something, you'll be able to see them raising up their head and trying to munch or crunch away what they're eating. So yes, it's quite tricky also when they are foraging like this, because it's not guaranteed that they'll be able to see or to get whatever they're looking for. Thank you so much, Beverly. You see, trying to scratch, nothing that didn't bear any fruit for it. Scratch again, dig, and also sometimes you'll find them, they tend also to eat some root tubers from some of the grass. So this is because some of the roots have got some minerals that they might be in need of. So from here in the Mara, we're going to Lorraine, South Africa. Over to you.
So what do we have here? This is actually a very good question. We are sitting discussing it right now, and we do believe that this could be a steppe eagle. However, we are not 100% sure. So why don't, using that hashtag SafariLive, if any of you know exactly what this is, you could maybe help us out a little bit here. It could be the lesser spotted, one of the options. It could also be the tawny eagle, that's another option. Or, of course, the steppe eagle itself. Or even potentially the Wahlbergs. So if you could let us know what you think this eagle is. It's quite far away in the distance, obviously on top of this dead tree. Looking out for what it sees below. Most raptors use their eyes to see what prey they can see down below. So it's obviously on the lookout, but we're just not sure exactly which one it is. They can be quite difficult to identify from a distance. We are using the binoculars, but still it's a bit tricky. Joy thinks it's a Wahlberg. Okay, interesting. Do we have any other answers there, Kirsten? Mazzy thinks it's a snake eagle. No, we don't agree with this, I think, because snake eagles generally are not true eagles, so they don't have the feathers going all the way down their legs. So if we take a look here, I think there is feathers going all the way down. So we can rule out snake eagles, but nice try. So far we have Wahlbergs and steppe from this vehicle. Deja Vu says it's a bird. I think you could be right. Well done. I think it definitely is a bird. It's a good starting point. But we believe it's steppe eagle. It's very big. Could it be a juvenile? Very difficult to tell, but if you have a little look from what we can see, Wahlbergs do have the little crest on the back of their head, which is a really easy feature to use when identifying them, and it doesn't look like this bird has it. So I think we could potentially rule out the Wahlbergs. But it's also a very good guess. African fish eagle. No, I definitely can rule out the African fish eagle, as they are really easy to identify. They have white heads, and it's quite contrasting against the brown bodies. So normally when you see the African fish eagle, you can tell what it is straight away by that bright white head. But good guess, we're getting there. I do have James on the back of me who does also think it's a steppe eagle. Matt thinks it's a Wahlberg. So we do have lots of Wahlbergs. I just don't see that tuft of hair up on the back. Ostrich, really? So we're driving around to see potentially if we could get a better view of it. See if we could catch it from a different angle. Okay, we'll drive around a little bit further. Interesting, it's not that easy to identify the raptors as you would think. But good guesses from everyone, good job. Tim thinks it's also a steppe eagle. Yes, I agree. I think that is the one we're going to go for, steppe eagle. So I think we've lost our little eagle, so we'll just continue driving on. Unless you have one of these big birds of prey up close, they are really difficult to identify. You just need to look for key features, and then you can start to cut some off the short list. Now we're seeing a lot of European rollers around here. Just a few days ago they were not around. So it's wonderful to have them here. And of course the name European rollers also suggests that they come from Europe. Same as I. So it's nice to see they finally made it here. Right, I'm trying to see if we can get a better view of this bird for you. Trust it to be the one that's very far away. We can still see it. We can't just guess, of course. We need to give the final answer to you. Mushy. Do birds have nostrils? How do they breathe? Yes, they do have nostrils. Oh, okay, I'm coming up to the bird. Yes, they do breathe through their nostrils. They do have lungs, of course. And they even, if they get too hot, they actually open their beaks really wide. It's quite obvious what it's doing. And they will release heat through their mouth in something called gular fluttering. So yes, they do use their nostrils and their mouths to breathe. So let's see if we've got a better angle for you of this bird. We can't leave it a cliffhanger. We need to tell you exactly what it is. There we go. Let's try and see if my wonderful cameraman can get it in focus. Yes, Kirsten is also commenting on that. I think he's got it in focus. There we go. Oh, can you see the mouth is open there? The beak is slightly open. That's what I was actually referring to. So it's really, really hot, and it's going to be an incredibly hot day ahead. So that is the bird just using something called gular fluttering to release the heat. Evaporative cooling, if you like, in birds. Okay, there we go. What shall we deem our final answer? I'm going to go with steppe eagle as my final answer for this bird. Yes, it is indeed a steppe eagle. So there we go. Took a while, but we got there. Thank you for all your input. Okay, so while we have these big bird of prey, let's go across to Jamie, who has a teeny tiny elephant.
Isn't she absolutely adorable? And she just went trotting across the road after Mum, and unfortunately now going north into Buffelshoek. Don't all vanish, not yet. We've got a whole herd wandering across in front of us. That's lovely. I'm content. If I've had a morning spent with elephants, I'm happy with that. Even if it is a brief morning. There's so many baby elephants about. I don't know if we just keep seeing the same ones, or if there's actually just been some sort of peak. Oh, Craig, there's one very happy snail who just survived. That was close, snail. That was very close. That was nearly a flat snail. These Ellies have walked right past it. If it had been 1.5 meters further east, it would have been squashed. Well, elephants are actually very good at placing their feet delicately around and away from things like snails and tortoises. Although we did once find a tortoise that had been stepped on by an elephant. I was going to move. There's another female that's behind me. And I don't really want to block her way, but she's chosen a different route to the rest of them. I'm just going to wait for her to come past behind me. Hey, big girl. Beautiful. She is absolutely massive, this one behind me. You can't see her, unfortunately. She's right behind us. But she's huge. Hi, big girl. I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting, minding my own business. Here she goes. The baby that's with her, that's walking behind her, doesn't look very well at all. It will make its way through now. You'll see it in a little bit. It really doesn't look well. Shame. There we go. Here comes the baby. It's missing its tail. It's a little male. It's lost its tail at some point. And it looks really thin and really uncomfortable. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. It just does not look well at all. I'm not even sure that that elephant's going to survive. It is... the skin is stretched... the skin is sort of stretched over its face and its backbones. Oh, no wonder Mom gave us a little bit of a shake of her head. She's probably very stressed. Steph apparently is in FC and he says, yo, I know it really doesn't look good. Shame, little boy. No idea what's wrong with it. But it is definitely not well. Shame. No tail. Doesn't look right. It is. I wonder if that's not an infection. I don't know. You know, sometimes baby elephants lose their tail when a bigger elephant steps on them. It could have survived an attack by a lion or a leopard. But that does not look healthy at all. I'm going to have to move. There's somebody coming up behind me that is clearly in a desperate hurry to be elsewhere. Just bear with me. Shuffle round. Hey, sorry about that. I didn't mean to put such a dampener on that. I was about to say I'm happy to have seen elephants, even if I haven't seen much else today. I was happy enough to see elephants. But now I feel as though it's put a bit of a dampener on the whole. Hi, how are you doing? Good, good. I have absolutely no idea who that was, but he knew my name. That's awkward. Shame, little one. Not well at all. Well, that really I was miserable enough this morning without that. I could have done without that. Shame. Okay, well, let's go look for something happy. Lex, you say that elephants walk so silently and you want to know why that is. The answer to that is the way that their feet are structured. It spreads the weight very evenly and it's very cushioned. So elephants' feet are actually structured so that they walk almost on their tippy toes. If you can imagine the bones of an elephant's foot like this, then there's a padded cushion underneath the feet so that the pressure isn't all on the bones of the toe. And when they walk, the foot spreads and the fleshy, spongy tissue around the base spreads out in a way that distributes the weight, and then they walk very, very quietly. So it's sort of, it folds. It unfolds as the elephant puts its foot down. So even though it's supporting a couple of tons worth of weight, they're still capable of moving very, very quietly. And I think most of us who've been on foot in the bush can attest to just how quiet leopards can be. Snail, you're not content with almost being stepped on by elephants. You now want to come and walk. Oh, it's there. Giselle made a joke, but I couldn't hear what it was. That snail was almost? Ah, the snail was almost a nail. I see. Pushed into the ground. Let me shuffle, then I can show you it. It was a bit too close. Okay, both Brent and myself came looking to see if we could see the wild dogs. Oh, there he is. I'll give you one quick view of the snail. Just quickly, sorry. And then I will send you over to Brent. There it is. The luckiest snail you ever did see. Right, now what I was going to say was that Brent and myself both came to Buffelshoek Cut Line in the hope that the dogs were going to cross. It doesn't look like they're going to, so let's see what Brent has planned instead.
Welcome back. No, unfortunately the dogs went further to the east. Oh, there were vervet monkeys. They are now running and playing and jumping. Let's try a bit further forward. See if we can catch them in the big tree. Hello, Trouble. Zzz. Looks like they're having a great time this morning. They're going to start getting quite active now as it gets warmer. And potential predators, such as leopards and lions and things, are not going to be as active. So it is already 29 degrees Celsius, 85 Fahrenheit. And I think it is going to be a scorcher today. We'll probably get well over 100 by the end of today. Or I'd say by 11 o'clock today we'll be over 100. You can actually hear the cicadas. The sound of summer, especially when you hear a woodlands kingfisher in the background. Now, of course, vervet monkeys are omnivores, and they'll be foraging as much as they can while it's still relatively cool, because even they will be trying to keep as still as possible once that mercury rises. Very busy little creatures. Well, it seems like they've all sort of disappeared a bit. I'll try one more spot to see if we can get a better view. Oh, they're just going higher and higher in the big knobthorn. There's a few naughty little faces peering at us. Of course, always very, very good at spotting potential threats. Oh, itchy. Okay, well, we're going to leave the vervets to carry on their foraging. And in the meantime, we're going to send you a few thousand kilometers to the north, back to the Mara and Dennis, with the most numerous antelopes south of the Sahara.
And right now we're observing some two young impalas trying to test each other's strength. Sometimes the fights from young ones are not necessarily meant to show like they're fighting for any dominance. Sometimes the fights are mostly for social bonding. So this helps them to strengthen their social bonds. And you can see right there, it's trying to test its strength with a fully grown impala. The young impala, you can be able to tell it's a young one because its horns have not fully taken the shape of a fully grown impala. Like the one which is has its head down, that's a fully grown impala. So mostly you find in herbivores like the impalas, when the young males attain the age of 2 years towards 3 years, they start growing horns. And for the females, they don't grow horns. So only the males in a male impala have horns. So what happens is that when they attain that age, they're usually kicked out of the harem. A harem is a breeding family where we only have one male and several females. So what will happen is that the male, the incumbent male in the harem, will kick out all the young male impalas because he doesn't want to have competition for his mates. So what will happen is that the male impalas which are kicked out of the harem, they join a group of male alone, which we call, or we nickname it, the bachelor herd. So this happens to be an all boys group. All of them are boys. There is a fully grown one there with the fully grown beautiful horns. Another one in the background is also another fully grown male impala. Impalas in general are characterized by their beautiful horns, and they are quite beautiful in that they have a full tawny color. And the most unique thing about them is the 3 stripes on their rump. You can see there is one stripe on the left. The tail also is black, has got like a black marking, and also on the right there is also another black marking. So it tends to have like 3 stripes in the behind. So this sets them apart from other antelopes. And quite unique is that we tend to nickname the impala the McDonald's, for they tend to Yes, Lara, they do injure themselves with the horns, especially when they are now fighting for dominance to show who is the most senior male impala in the group, because in each and every group there has to be a leader, and in order for the leader to attain that position, or for him to be able to prove that he is powerful, he has to fight for that position. So quite often, sometimes you'll find them injuring each other because the horns are very sharp at the tip. Rara, yes, they do injure each other. And on most occasions, you'll find that whenever you find a group of male impalas like this one, for a few, and from the impalas, I'll link you to Jamie in South Africa for more interesting feeds. Thank you.
This is the joy about this time of year, of course, is that there are lots of interesting things, especially when you stop and spend a little bit of time observing the smaller ones. So in the middle of this rhino midden, we have discovered a flurry of activity as the dung beetles set about the work of summer. And what that means for this particular species is rolling up a ball of dung. Oh, incoming, where'd it go? Gonna land? No, it's gone. Rolling up a ball of dung and hopefully attracting the attentions of the female that might be interested in, there's one, might be interested in the ball of dung gathered by the male. She then plonks herself upon it, and off they go to bury it somewhere. So what she does is she lays her eggs in the middle of the dung ball, or egg, and once her larvae hatches, then it is provided with an instant food source so that it can grow big and strong very quickly, and then of course be ready to pupate and turn into an adult dung beetle. Now this rhino dung is giving them some difficulty because it's already dried out quite a bit, and it's obviously very grassy because rhino are hindgut fermenters. None of them seem to be very good at it. Sometimes you get dung balls the size of tennis balls, but these ones haven't managed anything much bigger than a ping pong ball or a table tennis ball. What you sometimes see in these piles of dung is that there are, as with any sort of society, there are those who work hard and there are those that wish to capitalize on the hard work of others. And so it's not uncommon to see fights erupting between dung. And one at the bottom is hilarious. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh, shame. It's an uphill battle, folks. And sometimes they do fight over dung balls. Well, don't go that way then. Go a different way. They have strong front legs that they utilize to push off the ground. So dung beetles, when they do roll their dung balls along, will actually go with their head down towards the ground, and they hold on with their back legs and they push with their front. A system that I find truly bizarre. It's obviously physiologically a stronger way of doing things, but it would make their lives a great deal easier if they could reverse that and use their back legs to walk and push and their front legs to move the ball, because then, believe it or not, they'd be able to see where they're going, rather than having to do what this gentleman is doing, which is climbing onto the top of the dung ball and looking around. Uh-oh, someone's going to steal it. Someone's going to steal it. No! Leave him alone. It's his dung ball. He worked hard for that. Wait, which one got it? I'm confused. I've lost track. I think the chap on the right is a little bit shaken from that experience. You all right? You okay? Yep, your ball's there. Off you go. Well done, buddy. The dung beetle was a lot bigger than you are. Now, Alistair wants to know why it is that the dung beetles don't just dig down and lay their eggs in the pile of dung itself. Some of them do. Some dungs, because there are lots of species of dung beetle, some will do that. So they will lay their eggs in the dung pile, and then there are others who roll balls like this. So the advantage of rolling a ball like this is they can take it away and hide it, because a lot of bird species know that if they come and they sift through this pile of dung, they're going to find, or even honey badgers, anything like that. Oh, that one's got an even bigger ball. That one's definitely done a better job, although it seems to be struggling with it. Now, they know that if they come and dig through these dung piles, they will find dung beetle larvae. So there's the advantage of taking it away and burying it, makes it less likely to find... Oh, there's another fight going on. Three-way argument. Oh, one just gave up. I can't tell now which are males and females. It's a bit tricky. Mostly it's the male that does the ball rolling work. Alex, what's the use of what? Sorry? The ball or the dung beetle itself? The ball bug. I see. Alex wants to know what the use of the ball bug is. I love it. That's such a good name for these dung beetles. It's a ball bug. They do a tremendously important, service in terms of removing waste. So they actually help to spread out the piles of dung and utilize them as a food source rather than the piles of dung just simply collecting and collecting and collecting. So there's that. Some dung beetles actually specialize in the scat of predators, which of course is much less hygienic than the dung of herbivores and can spread disease. So there's that. And they're also quite an important food source for a lot of different animals. So their larvae in particular are very, very nutritious and are actually eaten by people as well in certain areas. Whee! The fun thing about dung beetle flight is that they are very good flyers, but they're not very good landers, and in fact they can't really land. All they do is fold up their wings, and fall out of the sky and hope they land in the right spot. It's hilarious. Oh, industrious, this chap. You can actually see bits of the dung moving underneath it. You can just see little mounds popping up. That's other species of dung beetle, or perhaps even this species that's gone buried down into the dung to gather up better building, moister building material for their balls. I mentioned that there are a lot of bird species that would like to feed off the larvae of this particular ball beetle, ball bug, and a grey hornbill is one such bird.
Now we do have an interesting bird for you that's refusing to stay still for us. However, have we got a glimpse of it just now? No, we don't. It was posing perfectly before we went live, and it is indeed the grey hornbill. Where have you gone? Birds have such a knack for doing this to us, you know. We're waiting to go live, and all of a sudden they just fly off. They're notorious for it. Let's see if we're able to find it again for you, because it is a very nice bird. And of course, we're so used to seeing the yellow-billed and the red-billed. They're very, very common. That it's just nice to see a grey-billed for a change. Now, okay, that is not the grey hornbill. Just let me clarify that. That is indeed a giraffe. So we jumped from bird to giraffe. And this is quite far away from us, and you can see it is just browsing in the tree. Now, from what I can see here, it is a male. There are a few different ways to look for the male, but it's very obvious there's a penis sheath there. And if you are able to get a look at those ossicons on the top of the head, they're not horns, as some may think. They are ossicons. You can tell the difference between male and female from that. Females often have fluffy tufts of hair at the top of their ossicons. And, oh, we have a noisy bird here. Just wondering if you heard that. That was a beautiful roller going past. Let's see if we can capture that. I'm glad you heard it. It was very, very loud.
Get it.
Nope, that one doesn't want to entertain us either. But back to the giraffe. So the males are often bald on the top of their ossicons due to fighting and all the physical contact they do with one another. But this one, just from the penis sheath, is clearly a male. Now, males do tend to be quite bigger than females, but we obviously haven't got a female in sight to compare it to. Now, giraffes are just wonderful. There's lots of theory into why they have the big long neck. Why do we have an animal with such a huge long neck that it almost looks like it's from another world? Well, that's a good question. The obvious thought was, of course, that they use it to get to the tops of the trees that other animals can't eat. Although elephants can probably reach a lot higher than them. But a lot of people don't go with this theory anymore. Some people think that they have evolved these long necks for fighting one another. Sort of a sexual selection, if you like. The males use their necks when fighting. It's quite surprising to watch this. But funny enough, even though the neck is extremely long, they still only have 7 vertebrae like we do. So they still have the same amount of vertebrae in their back. It's just obviously much longer gaps in between. Isn't that fascinating? So you can see here it's actually bending down to reach the lower leaves. I didn't catch the name there, but is the giraffe's tongue sticky? I'm not 100% sure if it's sticky or not, but I imagine it's not. One fascinating thing about it is it's black, and that's another topic of debate actually. Why on earth do giraffes have black tongues? Again, it was thought to be for sun protection because they've got their tongues out quite regularly. It was thought that it protects them from sun damage. However, the other side of the debate is that it's not in the sun all day, is it? There's many animals that also have their tongues out. So they're thinking that it's possibly rubbery and black in colour just for protection against the food that they eat. not necessarily against the sun. But many topics of debates there for giraffes. They are very interesting animals indeed. Now, as the giraffe's walking away, let's go and try and see if we can get a little bit closer, or if we can find that grey hornbill for you again that we originally tried to find. Let's see. Another reason we wanted to show you the grey hornbill is they do actually look like they have eyebrows. Now, they don't have eyebrows, but it definitely looks like they do. They have the white markings above their eyes. And that ties in with the question we were asked earlier. However, it seems to have disappeared. So we will try and find more birds for you indeed, but let's go over to Brent and see exactly what he is up to.
Well, we did a quick scan for Horsana, but no such luck. But you know it's hot when the starlings are already seeking out shade and not running around in the grass. And for some reason, when it's really hot, the starlings seem to always give this very irritating that call. They sit in the trees and they just make that noise all day. Oop. Pop down. It's going to pop out again. Doesn't look like it. Let's try and move a bit forward. Might be trying to... Oh no, it's flown off. Okay. Bye, starlings. I'm sure Hassan is around here somewhere. James would like to know if there have been any signs of foam nest frogs yet. There haven't. But I think it should start in the next couple of days now that we've got some pans for them to build their nests above. Let's see if we can find some last minute birdies. And so all the birds are already in the shade. I can hear a Camaroptera. But it flew away, of course. Okay. Puma is saying it looks much greener than it was a week ago. It's a lot greener than it was 3 days ago. It's amazing how a little bit of rain really makes a difference. Oh my goodness, it is going to be properly warm today. So the guesstimate, or the weather people say it's going to be 38 degrees Celsius, which I think is about 104, 105 Fahrenheit, but it could quite easily go over that as well. Oh. So I thought they'd found something right at the dam cam, but it's not. It was a false alarm. But and unfortunately, speaking about the dam cam, it is in being fixed. It is something to do with firmware. I have no idea about that stuff, but our tech team are experts and they are trying to get it fixed. They might have to send it off to Johannesburg. But at least we got to see the beautiful little Kalamba this morning and Corky on patrol. It seems like that lion actually walked off the property, but there's good prospects for the afternoon with those wild dogs not too far from our boundary. So fingers crossed we get some puppies racing through Djuma this afternoon. But from all of us out here in the African bushveld and in Kenya, bye and see you a little later.